All right, Coach, we're back.
Back at it. Let's do it again.
Good. We got a great guest on today. We're looking forward to that. We're going to talk a little college. We're going to talk a little high school. And what state are we covering again today? What's the state?
South Carolina.
That's right. South Carolina, which is exciting. South Carolina, I believe, is similar to Georgia with their coaching stuff, as far as those guys are also kind of full-time, quasi-full-time guys. But without further ado, I'll let you introduce our guest. This is exciting because he coached you, right? So that's the exciting part. We got a little brief to the fun we're about to have on the pre-show. So the world is yours, Coach.
Well, let's talk about Coach Mike Cieri. My special teams coordinator for my time at Montclair State. The most technically sound coaches, I want to say. Attention to detail, technique-wise. Also served as the line coach, and that was always the success. Most of our success came because of our D-line. So, Coach is now down in South Carolina as an assistant coach, high school-wise. So he's got a lot of stuff in terms of how they do things down there. And he's just a great overall coach. I owe a lot to him. And probably my passion for special teams really kind of came from him, in the fact that we just did so much and it was so intricate, when most guys they're not even close to doing that. So I look forward to hearing what he has to say about a lot of topics. We're good to go.
Yeah, we're good to go. Coach, welcome to the podcast.
I want to thank you guys for having me on. This is a great honor. Usually we don't see the agent up at 9 o'clock. My players right now, I'm at the old folks home, and we're in bed. We just had tapioca, and we're getting ready to settle in for the night.
I love tapioca too. My God.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Rice pudding. It's
rice pudding. Rice puddings for me.
Pudding.
Well, Coach, we're excited to talk to you. Obviously, you're down in South Carolina. Now coaching down there. Long time at Montclair State. Coach gave a great interview. He didn't take the full hour, so we actually have some time for the podcast, which is nice. So we could actually talk a little bit about what that road was like. So, but let's go back to Montclair State and all the years coaching with Giancola and some of the experiences that you had there. Let everybody know kind of the coaching pedigree and your coaching pedigree and where you came from and all that.
Well, first of all, this is my I'm starting my 52nd year tomorrow night. Will be our opening game. We start here early here in South Carolina, but I started this journey back in 1972. I was at Weehawken High School with the cousin of the person that you see on game day, Mr. Lee Corso, and this was Roy Corso, his cousin. From there, I went on to Belleville, and then I moved out to the western part of the state where I was at Mount Olive. I made my first couple years at Mount Olive, and then I got a call from Bill Clicker to go to Fairleigh Dickinson in Madison. And right then, Bill, what a great guy to coach for, but he let us coach, and that's how I learned a lot of football, by doing it and making some mistakes. And the mentor that Bill was, getting me on the right track and what to look for and things like that. I came back to Montclair. I came back to Mount Olive, and then the superintendent did not want me to coach because I became the science chairperson. So I went over to Boonton, and I was the head coach at Boonton for 3 years. After that, I got the call to go back to Fairleigh Dickinson, and I stayed there till 2002 when a new coach took over. I saw the handwriting on the wall. I called up Coach Giancola, and I said, "Do you have an opening for me?" And he hired me in March of 2002. And I was there until COVID hit. And when COVID hit, we were on the shelf for a year and a half. I own 2 properties, one down here in South Carolina, and I owned a condo in Alamucci, New Jersey. And I said, where are we going? And I called up a few people that I knew down here, the AD at North Myrtle Beach, who actually coached basketball in the Shore region. And his son, Ryan Quigley, was a punter for the Jets as well as Minnesota. And I believe he was with the Jacksonville Jaguars. So that connection brought me to North Myrtle Beach. And in 2020, took them to the state finals. There, I was special teams coordinator and defensive backfield coach. And this year, I decided to go help a smaller school, Waccamaw, still the special teams coordinator. And we're getting our pattern reading down. I'm the defensive coordinator, as well as the defensive backfield coach.
Can't get any better than being in Myrtle Beach and being able to relax.
And I live in Myrtle Beach.
You live in Myrtle Beach.
Yeah, and Waccamaw High School is just south of me in Pawleys Island, Litchfield Beach and Pawleys Island.
Very cool. I've spent for many years. We ran an all-star game in Myrtle Beach at Myrtle Beach High School.
Actually, it's owned by the town. That's Shaw Stadium.
Sure, yeah, exactly. Yes. And Doug Shaw, right? Doug Shaw Stadium. Right. That's right.
Right.
Beautiful facility.
Absolutely.
But I remember, oh man, it's so great that not just the beach, although it'd be the winter when we would be there, but it was still reasonable. It wasn't like, up here where it was still reasonable. But yeah, it was a great time. I mean, you got Coastal Carolina down there is become a big deal, and all the high schools, like a growing area, not just retirement community wise, but a growing area as a whole, right?
Absolutely. Horry County has quite a few high schools, and it also holds the 4th largest high school in the state of South Carolina, and that's Carolina Forest. They have 3,100 kids in their building. And so most of the schools that are near the coast in Horry County are fairly large. When you start driving south towards Georgetown and Georgetown County, the schools get a little bit smaller. We might have 800. The problem is that when we go to build a schedule, we will be playing those what you call 5A and 4As for our out-of-conference games. So tomorrow night we'll open up against a 5A St. James. And they got anywhere from 2,400 to 3,000 kids in their building.
It's one of the greatest corridors, because if you keep going south, you go through Georgetown, that whole ride all the way down, then you hit Charleston.
That's correct. That's right.
One of my favorite places in the world, Charleston.
And if you stay on 17 and hug the coast, you'll go all the way down to Hilton Head.
And Georgetown I remember going through Georgetown, right? Hilton Head, the other great, yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Georgetown has that big industrial.
Has a paper mill, and it also has a steel mill.
That's what it is. What it is.
Right.
See, Derek, you just learned a whole bunch of stuff really quickly.
Derek didn't even know where Montclair State was. Geography was not his thing.
Take it easy. I was a history teacher. I do know. Come on now. Let's be nice. All right. It's
now, now, South Carolina, correct me if I'm wrong, Georgia has like the head coaches are, I guess the best way to put it is like quasi. It's not like Texas exactly, but they are full-time, the bigger schools. South Carolina is similar in that aspect, right?
Yes, South Carolina in the biggest school, most of the coaches are full-time head coaches. They are in charge of all the programs in football, and sometimes they are the weightlifting coach. Most of the time, they would be just the football coach taking care of the staff and the players. Okay, smaller schools like ours, our head football coach teaches a class, and he's also the athletic director now. So they got him running rampant. Yeah. Okay. And that's, of course, to save money. And it's a little bit different the way they run. Remember now, it's county driven. Okay. It's not school driven. So not everybody in the county all will be a football coach if you're an AD, but they decided to, in order to make up a little stipend, I guess, for this guy, he's got to do both.
What was the biggest transition coming from being in college for all those years, coaching college athletes, everything that goes along with that, and then coming back to high school after all those years of being in college? What was the biggest change for you? Obviously, change of scenery, but also kind of what was that change overall from a coaching standpoint?
Well, I think first of all, because of my background, a lot of the coaches don't understand the technical part of the game. They think that the scheme is more important than the actual techniques that are needed. Okay. Part of the situation is when I grew up and my mentors, if you didn't go to a clinic 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the winter, something was wrong with you. Hey, coach, you don't want to learn the game. It's very difficult for these guys to do anything. And we were talking about this a little bit today. Okay. There is no games over the weekend. Now, that's unheard of in the North. You either play Friday night or Saturday. Your JV is playing probably Saturday morning. Maybe even your freshman team's going to play Saturday, and you would play the other game on a Monday. Okay? Weekends are solely for players to do what they want to do. That's the difference. And those coaches, that's what's called family time. Okay? So when there was a clinic this year run by the state of South Carolina, the head coach had to go to it. It's 5 hours away. Okay. How many assistants went? 2. And all I heard was, hey, that was a great night we had at the bar. Okay. I didn't hear what happened in football. If we went, somebody would say, hey, can I have your notes? Can I read your notes? I remember Todd Agresta. He'd write everything down and he would share it with us. Same thing I would do when I went to the AFCA clinic, which I still go to because I work for them. You had to go. If one of your coaches was speaking, you supported him. I mean, I don't see these guys attending Glaciers. I speak at Glaciers, and Derek can back that up. I asked them, I get a free room, okay, for one night. Why don't you come with me? They don't come with me. Okay, so the toughest thing was it's hard to gain time with these guys to teach them the simple fundamentals of football. Now, I do applaud our staff because we are changing they're going to run a flex bone. I think it's wonderful for the type of kids we have. They did go out in a 3-day period of time back in March, and they went to Harding to learn the flex bone, okay, from the Harding coaches. At least they did that. They didn't try to do it from watching film or, there's nobody in our area that runs it. So they did have to, go out. But at least they made the attempt to do that. So I think that's the biggest change. I think the second change is, well, you're a college coach. You can't do this here. Football's football. Okay. Tackling is tackling. Okay. And that bothers me that they always, special teams, you got to keep it simple. Okay. I don't think our special teams were complex. I think what's complex that we did, and Derek can back this up, the finer points of how do you block a guy in the open field? How, what is it to trail and fit properly? Little things like that. The sprint down on the kickoff. Most kickoff returns, kids miss blocks because they're not sprinting down, getting their body in the right position. Okay. Trying to tell guys that football is not very difficult, but you got to understand how to get them from part A to part B. So I think those are the important things. Where they outgun us, down here is their fields are all lit up. They almost all are turf. They got plenty of practice facility outdoors. But where they fall short is I don't think we let kids with coaches watch enough film. I think kids are mainly, and I was a science chairperson and an AP bio teacher, they were visual learners for the most part. And I don't think we sit down and do the video work that we need to do. Even if it's 10 minutes a day, they need to see themselves what they did wrong because they don't believe you. And then you also have to say, here's how we defend this. Let's say if it was secondary play, here are the routes. Here's how we match up. So I think those are some of the big important things that are a little different, but also some of the things that probably we can boost what happens in the North in terms of coaching.
Those are great points. Derek probably has technical difficulties. I don't know what goes on with his internet every time. He's in, he's out, he's in. You know what's interesting? I thought was really interesting was, and I don't know. I mean, it's even starting to become a little bit of a problem in New Jersey. But younger coaches are not as active learners of the game, and I don't know why that is. But you're dead on with the clinics. And like when I started coaching, that was what I looked forward to, like going and sitting and hearing all the different ways guys did certain things, or if I had an agenda of things I needed to learn, to go into coaching clinics, whether it was Glazier, whether it was Nike, or like I used to love how in Nike, the last one I went to was when Ed Orgeron and Dabo Sweeney spoke right before COVID in Connecticut. They have this big Northeast one every year, right before. That Ed Orgeron had just won the national championship. Dabo Sweeney had just come in, and on that slate was those two plus Randy Edsel, who I played at UConn. I know Randy, and Randy. Randy was getting this rap because this round 2 at UConn was not as good as round 1. And I told Derek this. I said, I have to sit on Randy's clinic. I know him personally, but never heard him speak. And I sat in his clinic and I said it was the greatest defensive back clinic I had ever seen. He was so amazing, like the finer points of defensive back, not just coverages, but technique, why you play this in certain situations. I mean, I was taking copious notes on it because I'd never heard certain things explained in that way. And I was like, obviously this is how he became the guy he was. He was later in his career, but this is what he was so great at. And I think it's a thing where so many of the younger coaches do not take advantage of that. And to me, it's sad because they'd rather go on YouTube and watch videos and think they can learn it just by watching. There's a difference between sitting there and being able to ask questions to a coach, a college coach, a high school coach, a professional coach, and be able to ask them questions about a specific thing they're talking about versus watching a video passively and trying to figure out what they're doing by watching it. There's a totally different learning curve there. I mean, I think that part has really changed. Is there a way that we could get them back on that standpoint?
Well, I think part of it is they don't want to give up their free time. That's number one. Number two, you mean I got to pay for the clinic? And if the booster club's not paying for it, okay, well, I think that the head coach themselves have to give them what I call winter work.
Yep.
Okay? And that winter work is in the learning.
Absolutely.
Right. It's something when I work with Todd, I said, Todd, we should have every coach on our staff read a book. Okay, somebody's book. Let's pick out a book and let's talk about it, just like a book club, so that we can learn. Then when we were coaching, there was one a season in a week. And it took 5 or 6 major colleges. How did the head coach handle his week? A different head coach. How did they handle what happened during the week? So you get an insight into what does a week look like in terms of football? What do you do in the morning at your meeting? What do you do in the afternoon? Now, of course, it's got to be adapted. High schools can't do all of that, but at least you get an idea of a flow plan on what needs to be done. You got a lot of coaches that get the job and they don't know how to do the day-by-day operation. And then at the same time, they got to worry about the entire program. Okay? Well, I did the practice plan today. No. What's going down with the middle school? What about CB?
Yeah,
right. See,
and
that's where they don't understand. And the younger the coach, the harder it is, because they don't have mentors that they can lean on. A lot of the mentors have passed away. My mentor passed away about a month ago, Al Nicholas at Mount Olive High School. And but he showed me the simplest playbook in the world. But why do you got to have a small playbook? You got to put your thoughts down so that if you need to refer back to it, okay, you can and say, yeah, here's what we're doing. Here's how we got to fix it, whatever. But he was a master of handling kids. That's what I learned from him. Everybody's going to bring a little something different to the table.
That's it. That's
right.
it. And I think, one of the things, I'm so fortunate, right, that I was surrounded by guys that did it the right way and all that. And I'm great mentors where if something comes up that I don't know, I have 3-4 guys that I can call, text, that are going to answer with what they did, how they did it. And I have binders and books and just notes from every clinic I was ever at, from everything. It may have had nothing to do with what we did as a team in that moment, but maybe it's going to come down the road. Maybe it's something we're facing. I just think you can take something from everything within those clinics, or just even talking to a coach. It doesn't have to be, if you're a high school guy, you have to talk to a high school guy. Like, break it up, because you could take something away from everything. I think a lot of these guys now think like, hey, I can just watch YouTube, or do this or do that. Or some guys just really just don't have the desire or even the care to take it to that next level. But ultimately, if you want to be successful, you have to surround yourself with those types of guys and kind of make your staff and build it kind of in a way where that's important. And I think you can get it done. You just have to, you have to really find the right guys to put in the right positions and then kind of help them out as best you can.
Right. And when you look at the Montclair state staff, you mentioned it, almost every single one of us of the core went out and spoke either at Glacier or the Northeast Clinic. So if you needed a question answered about offensive line play, the phone call went to G. If you needed something about, offensive football, or even running backs, or the if you wanted to run empty, that was Coach O. You knew who exactly. If you needed anything from a defensive standpoint, you call Todd or you call myself, especially linebacker play and defensive line. I mean, that is what the process of coaching should be, handing down that knowledge to the next generation. And of course, obviously helping kids how to be men, okay? Because I think, today we are dumbing down the male society big time. Right?
Agreed.
So, but we're finding that there's less and less of that going on.
Well, we don't, it's interesting because after 20 years of coaching in high school and running all the stuff that I run, I'm coaching my son's 8U team.
It's a movie.
Okay, and it's funny because I tell Derek about this all the time, and what's interesting is there is less. So this is how I remembered when I first started coaching. I was assistant. I used to go down to the youth program and help those guys understand what we were running. Then when I became a head coach, I would do that, right? I would go, and Derek knows this when he coached me. Like I go down to the middle school. Like I want to help these guys understand things why we're doing things, how to include people in it. But what I noticed more and more now, just being my son's AU coach, like we're literally left to our own devices. Like I haven't seen, in the old days in preseason, and you probably remember this when you were coaching in high school, not now, but I'm saying the old days. You went down and you said, hey, we put this system in. This is why we put it in. If you guys are interested in running it, we're here for you. Nobody comes down to anybody now and explains anything to anyone. So these guys who, most of them are parents who are helping out, right? I just happened to have been somebody they were excited because it was someone who actually is coached. It was coming down and, because my son's playing. But these guys it's not that they don't want to know. These young guys who are molding younger kids and eventually men, they are not getting any assistance from the high school because the assistant coaches and even the head coaches in some instances don't have the patience to go spend an hour once a week with those guys,
Right.
and I think those things are necessary in order to build a culture in every community football wise. Now they may be doing it in South Carolina. I'm just noticing in New Jersey, but like I live in a town that's a powerhouse program town. Absolutely. Powerhouse program town. And it's not done as much. And that's probably changed from when that person was this guy's been the head coach there for a long time. He probably did in the old days, but now they don't do it as much. Right. That's part of the thing that's harder and harder for, youth coaches to then translate to success for older kids. And there's no connection. The old days, there was a connection all the way through, all the way through. And now that connection all the way through is broken much more.
Yeah, there's a couple things. Number one, they don't understand the yearly calendar. Okay, their calendar starts in August and ends in November.
Yeah.
Okay, but there is the yearly calendar for a coach. And let me go back and rephrase what I said.
Sure.
We have a lot of people that coach football. Okay, we don't have a lot of football coaches. Okay, and see, okay, I'm a football coach. Ball is very important to me. But why is it important? It doesn't matter if I was coaching baseball or I was teaching them, I don't know, cornhole. The thing is, it's making the person better so that they can carry on whatever they like to do in some kind of organized fashion to accomplish something and give back to somebody younger. Okay, and we don't get that. So we do have a staff of football coaches. Okay, now the young guys, here's what we do. Because when I went to this guy, as opposed to the guy I was with before I was with him, I said to him, how do you coach the JV and how do you coach the 8th grade team? And he goes, well, what do you mean? I got a staff down there. I said, who's coaching that staff? Well, I don't have enough coaches to go around. I said, well, who's going to instruct them how to play secondary play? Who's going to be their defensive line coach? If not, you better start clinics now in the winter, and you better start training those guys. And see, so that's what has to happen. So now at practice, I do special teams with the varsity. Then I go and I don't do my tackling circuit with the varsity. I go to the 9th JV team and I do their special teams. So I'm actually coaching the JV special teams. And then next week, when we get back to the weekly schedule, we're going to have the 8th graders. Maybe we'll do this for 2 or 3 weeks. And the JV D-backs all with me. And so what's going to happen is I'm going to use the JV guys who were there most of the summer, run their coverages, show the JV, and then we're going to take the 8th graders I'm going to send the JV over with another coach who's got a little working knowledge, okay, and I'll take the JV. So I'm giving them instruction to see a visual, those 8th graders, and then I will coach them in my 15-minute period, at least to get them off the ground. So again, you got a lot of coaches that say, here's my plan, that's it. What about the JV? Well, they're learning football. We'll wait when they come up.
Yeah. And then by the time they come up and they don't have any clue because they haven't been directly instructed, that's the problem. Now you got to take the time to reteach, and now you're behind. It just sets you up for more success when you can get your middle school guys involved. I mean, look, and then those are the guys that show up to the game on Friday night wearing their jerseys. They get in free, right? Like that creates an entire culture
Correct.
outside of the X's and O's of the game.
Absolutely.
Do you think the problem is partially so in the older days, like when I graduated high school in 92, but even much more so even before, like when I entered high school in 88, the guys who were hired as teachers had to have the ability to coach, okay?
The ability to do something else.
To do something else, right? Like even if they, I don't know, if they were a science teacher, they had to be able to also be, you needed a drama guy. That guy had to do that too, right? So
because you were the head of the science department at a big school like Mount Olive High School, where you were in charge of an entire department on top of coaching.
Well, now they don't. Now when they hire teachers, they don't care if you coach, and I think that's
care less.
I think, and then they say, "Oh, by the way, we need you to coach football." Instead of hiring a guy that does that.
Right.
Okay, now let's go back and think about it. Where are the majority of the greatest athletes in the United States? What sports do they play? What sports do they play? They play football,
basketball,
maybe baseball, right?
Baseball, right, yeah.
Right. How about soccer? Okay, so what's happening is the greatest personnel that we can fill are teachers because, it's a great job. Okay, you always hear we have the summers off.
Yeah.
Okay. Now schools are extending the time that you have to stay in school because the public wants you to put in for the dollar amount that you get. Okay, teachers are basically still starving in the summer. And so young people, talented young people, are not flocking to be teachers anymore. That's the first thing. Besides, we got a great shortage of teachers, qualified teachers. Okay, now in New Jersey, you got to pass the praxis. Okay, you got to show that you graduated. You got to have a degree. Okay, you know all about it, Derek, right?
It's a lot to it. It's a long process. You got to student teach.
In South Carolina, you have 3 years to. If I was going to be a special ed teacher, you have 3 years to finish your getting that certificate. 3 years. In most 3 years, those people are gone.
Yeah, they don't even finish.
Correct. The other thing we did that I think is ridiculous is you do not have to show classroom time to be an administrator or a guidance counselor.
Brutal. One of the worst things, biggest issues I had with the whole thing was that people start telling you how to handle your classroom when they've never been in a classroom.
Correct. And now those people by the Board of Education said you can't coach. You can't do something after the 3 o'clock bell. Okay? Before, if you didn't do anything after school,
that was a problem.
Going home early? Well, you were ridiculed. Right. That's not the fact now.
Yeah, they're running out of the building now.
Right.
Literally.
Right. That's why, believe it or not, we got to cultivate, and this is especially for high school. Okay. I know you got college jobs. They're hard to get. Okay. But they still got enough people that want to coach in college. Okay. However, in order to survive in college, that's a whole nother ball of wax. Because it's hard to run a family. It's hard to move your family. Okay. You're going to get fired if you're not with a coaching star. Okay. Life is tough because if you're on the bottom of the list of the coaches, whatever it is,
brutal.
okay, there's too many people. It's too much money. You got to be on the road. You got to find that gem for that coach. And if you can't recruit, you can't stay. It's that simple. So a lot of young guys succumb to that. They get disenchanted, and they don't even go back to try to coach anymore, even in high school.
That's interesting. I never thought about that before, that you get people flocking to college as GAs or early entry coaches, don't succeed and decide I don't want to coach anymore. So they're not even going back and teaching.
Right?
and
Yeah.
coaching.
It's not like
I
now
never
they
thought about
trickle down, right? It's not like now they trickle down. Like, hey, I have that college job didn't work out. Oh, I'll just go high school. It's like they're so. I didn't make it, man. I didn't get what I wanted. I want nothing to do with this game.
Well, and Derek, keep that thought in mind, okay? What would happen with G? He would always look for transfers, right?
Always.
Always. And we would get him, okay? Today, I didn't make Division I. I'm done. I don't want to play anymore.
Right.
They just won't play.
They won't play.
So when they don't play, they can't stay in the fold. So you can't get them on a rebound in terms of coaching. You can't find them. And that's difficult.
Well, we me and Derek talk about this, and we noticed it in the Shore area when we started, because we're, both of us that obviously we were in North Jersey for forever. And what we noticed with kids we coach down here is that if they don't get a Division I scholarship or an opportunity, that they're perfectly glad to go just be a regular student. There's nobody that will go to, not nobody, but less people that will go to Division III or Division II and actually be willing to deal with the same things that you would at Division I, but without getting the money, right? So if they're not getting any sort of glory or money, I guess the way I would put it, which you don't get right away at Division III.
No,
they step out of playing, and that's once they step out of playing, there's no hope for them becoming a coach, right? So
very few. Or I'll coach because I need the money, and then after a year, wow, that's all you make with all of this time? I can go somewhere else and make more money. Football's a grind. Now, you don't get that maybe in basketball or in baseball.
Right.
Also, when you go back and think about coaching, we spend less time coaching each player and more time to prepare because we can't pick up and play the game.
Correct.
You can go play basketball anytime you want. You can go hit a baseball anytime you want. Somebody can play catch with you. You please tell me how you're going to run, wide zone. You need bodies. You don't do that in two-hand touch. Now, to give you an idea, we just started an 8th grade tackle football program. In this town, they only did flag. So guess what we don't have? We don't have any linemen.
Right.
Why would you?
Me and Derek have talked about this. There's no linemen.
Full conversation. There's no line. Other than Wampo's kid, but we're good.
Well, because
that's true.
What's the phys ed class look like now? Just hold, and then we'll get into that discussion. The phys ed class usually back north is recreational leisure skills. Okay, we can't do jumping jacks. We can't put them on a vigorous program. Okay, how many people have weightlifting as part of their phys ed program? None in the north. Down here, just like Jimmy said, go to Delaney. Okay, almost every school has a football period, and they get most of their kids lifting.
Hey, remember Coach Bell said the same thing in Georgia, right? Yep. Like same thing. Mike Smith down in Florida, same thing. All these guys in these states where you see a lot of these big time prospects come from have weightlifting built in to the program itself, into school itself. And Coach Bell referenced it perfectly, said, look, now I'm not battling for kids that have to, hey man, you got to come to the weight room, or you got to play, like, then you can't play basketball, you can't lift because you got a game. The basketball coach is mad at me because I'm trying to get the guy in the weight room. There's just not, they don't do it in the Northeast. When you incorporate that strength program into your school day, it alleviates so many issues that you have within the program itself.
Well, see, here's part of the problem, Derek. In New Jersey, I'm going to tell you, you need 4 years of physical education, and there's a state curriculum. In South Carolina, you need 1 semester of high school physical education.
To graduate?
To graduate. Okay, so hold on. Now think about this. Here's what they were going to start at North Myrtle Beach, which is now in vogue. Period 1, block 1 of block scheduling. All football players. Period. Okay. The older kids already had their phys ed. So they will be in the weight room first semester and second semester. Now, you're not going to lift them 5 days a week.
No.
Okay, so the older kids will be Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Okay, the freshman football players are all in the gym during block 1. On Tuesday and Thursday, they go in the weight room, and now those older kids now go in to the gym, and that's where they do their agility work, their jumping of the bags, boxing, whatever. Okay, so that nobody would squawk. They're going to get their phys ed credit. The other guys are going to get weightlifting, and now it counts as an advanced class in their GPA. Okay, period 2, all girls. See, because if this was the North, you might have boys and girls together. So all girl athletes in period 2. Third period, or the third block, baseball, and I believe it was soccer. And then fourth block would be basketball and whatever, all the leftovers, like football players that had labs and that. Okay? It was a set program set up by the head football coach.
It's huge. It's important. It's getting you such a leg up, when you can do
Mind you, they're doing that all year round now. And that's the big difference. Now, they don't come out to be superstar weightlifters, but it protects them from injury. Okay? The other thing is we have spring ball. Okay? You're allowed. Yeah.
It's another part of that, these states, you're just checking all the boxes where the Northeast needs to catch up. You know what I'm saying?
Correct. Now, if you want to take a look at that, what's the drawbacks? And of course, we got the summer. The drawback is everything's got to be done early in the morning in the summer, starting the first week of June, because of the heat. You got to be off the field by 10:30.
So, and that's
the wet ball's going to get you. What?
So the rule is you have to be off the field by 10:30 a.m.
Well, because the heat and humidity will
wet ball.
The wet ball. Now, let me give you an idea of what happened this week or last week. Okay. Now depends. School gets out late in the South. Somebody read maybe 25, 30 years ago this article that high school kids needed to have more sleep and rest in the morning to be more effective students. So unlike New Jersey,
time-wise, you're starting to talk later time-wise.
Yes. Unlike the little kids, the kindergartners and all of them, grammar school, they're in school when the high school in New Jersey would be actually going to school. So they're in first. Then the middle school goes, it's just opposite.
Right.
Okay, which pushes the day back later. Okay. So last week we got on the field 5:45 every day at night.
On the field before 6.
Yeah, because of the humidity.
Hey, you gotta let's go. At least your day
comes and get you. If you got a trainer, the trainer's going to yank you off the field. If not, the principal's coming because he doesn't want to get sued.
Makes
Monday,
sense.
we're all
Obviously-
set for game week. We had a water main pipe break. They sent all the kids home. Tuesday, we sat in the locker room until 5:15. Wednesday, we had a bad lightning storm, and we didn't get out until 5:45. So you got to be able to go with the flow. So everybody says, well, you're working all summer, 7-on-7s, you're doing this, you got spring ball. But what happens is, I bet you when you're all caught up, okay, it's brutal to be out there. Okay, we had 105 heat index. We pushed them through it today. We had no choice. We're opening up tomorrow night. We had 2 days of practice in probably 4 days.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah. So, it sounds great, but, there are some drawbacks. I don't know how they do it in Florida unless they're closing their eyes and going like this.
Yeah, it works that way. They're closing their eyes, but listen, that's a different breed too, right?
Right.
They just deal with it all the time, right? And I know they have all the proper safety precautions and stuff, but it would be interesting to see really kind of how that really does affect it, and also just being outside more so on the regular down in the South, right? Like,
Right.
does it balance out with the North when in terms of, now like we can be out all the time in the summer. These guys can't, right? I would wonder if it actually balances out.
Think about this. You worked at Morris Knowles, right?
Yep.
Okay. So let's say we had the heat index. All right. Are you going to walk that team all the way back up the hill to go watch film? And then you got to walk all the way down. Somehow you got to think about your facility too.
Yeah.
We don't have the greatest facility to walk them in to the
I mean,
building,
listen,
walk them out. What do you do? This is always a problem down here. They got great outdoor facilities. They don't have indoor facilities. Like not even. I'm not talking about a gym or an auxiliary gym. I'm talking about just to watch film.
Right, a classroom setting that you could use. Yeah.
Right. And meanwhile, here we are, doing an event at Immaculata, and we walk inside and they have a full-blown studio theater set up, right, to watch film.
Right. So now we're getting pushed in South Carolina by state schools. Okay. For example, one is called Oceanside Collegiate.
Yeah, we talked about that. They're kind of the pseudo charter schools of South Carolina, I guess. Right.
They're being run by the state. Now, here's the beauty of it in terms if you're an athlete. Okay, you go to these schools. You go to school in the morning. I don't know what they do. You start practice at 8:30. You end at 10:30, 11:30. Every kid is in their house at 1:00. We just lost our trainer.
Yeah, we had this conversation. We talked about it. I mean, if that's something that's successful and works, I mean, that could be. I mean, for an athlete, why wouldn't you do it that way?
Okay, so here's the problem, though. Okay, they're hand-picking each team, whatever sports they play, and they're playing all the small schools. So when they see, let's say we got 100 kids in the building, they're playing our 1A schools. That's like group 1. They should be playing the 5s because
right.
they're
basing it on size in terms of number of kids. They're not looking at like, hey, this is like the best 100 kids at this sport, or these are the best kids. The quality of the play. They're looking at numbers, not quality.
Correct. But would you, if you were a quality athlete, which you were, would you go to that school knowing you'd be home at 1:00?
Yeah.
So how are they getting their education? They're getting it online.
Right.
Oh.
So Dave, think about it. We've looked into this, right, with your IMGs of the world and, all these other charter prep type schools. We're seeing kids do things now, especially post-COVID, where it was really kind of solidified. I could still learn through a screen and be successful. It's changed the game.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I don't think these kids in the long run are going to help society. They're going to help their own pocketbook if they're that good, but they're not helping society. We lost our middle linebacker. He's at Ocean Collegiate, okay, which plays out of the Citadel in Charleston, South Carolina.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe that's where is that where Hartman went, the quarterback for Notre Dame right now?
Did he go to Ocean Collegiate?
I believe
Okay.
he was like QB1 documentary on Netflix, and I think that might have been where he went.
And the concept is that every county in South Carolina, I believe there's 45 or something like that, they're all trying to get their own state school. And
Really?
our money's paying it.
Right. That's
Our
the
tax money.
yeah. It's
incredible. That's incredible.
That's-
So that's an. I did not realize that was
Now-
something that was a thing.
Here's
the
what
basic-
North Carolina did. North Carolina said, that's it. You can have those schools, but if you got 40 kids on the football program, okay, we're going to multiply that times 3.
right.
So you got 120, okay?
That's what we're gonna play.
So every sport is going to multiply. So if you got 500 kids in the school, you are now 1,500. I think in New Jersey, you would be at least a group 3, maybe a group 4.
Right.
Am I
Makes sense.
right?
Yeah. I mean,
And that's who they should be playing.
it's kind of similar to the way that they do it here, right? Like if you're a big public and or whoever, and you play anybody really, and you play one of the big wigs, right? Like your Boscos, your Bergens,
Right.
your Joe, you get a multiplier, right? So no matter win or lose, you get a certain number of PowerPoints, based off of times whatever they are. I mean, and
Well-
that's kind of like a way to those guys can kind of get a little something out of
Well,
it.
we don't have any PowerPoints or anything like that. Okay.
Right.
They go into that group. Okay. Last year, 5 state schools, or whatever you want to call these collegiates, they won 5 state championships.
Really?
Yeah.
How's that?
Now you're just going to create a divide between
So
those.
we got
public schools.
1 private division, 5 public divisions. That's 5 out of 6 they won.
Are they better than even the places like Dorman and Spartanburg area, all those programs?
I think that Group 5 was the only one that had a regular I have to take that back because Gray Collegiate won. And Gray Collegiate should have been a 5, but they rated them a 2. Okay, so yeah, they're on par with Dorman.
Wow.
They're on par with AC Flora, Dutch Fork. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, they're up there. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Now, we don't know how Atlantic Collegiate will be. That's the one closest to my house here. And they are actually going to school at a church in the basement to report. And then they're going to Doug Shaw Stadium in the morning.
I knew
to
that, yeah.
practice.
Yeah.
Okay. And Myrtle Beach follows them after they're done.
Interesting. At the same field.
At the same field. Yeah.
I mean,
And they will never play each other.
That's incredible. Because I remember that the head coach of Dutch Fork used to be in North Carolina at Independence.
Tommy Knox.
Yep.
Right.
Tommy Knox. And he was if you remember when Tim Tebow, what was the quarterback? Leak?
Trent Leak.
Leak, yeah. So Leak was from Independence, I believe, and he played for Tommy, and then I think it was Leak, and then he went from Independence. I think he went to college to coach quarterbacks at Duke, and now he's at Dutch Fork, and he's built that into a powerhouse. We used to run events at Dutch Fork all the time with him.
Yeah.
Well, originally we used to run at Independence in North Carolina with him, and then he went over to Dutch Fork. But it's amazing because the other area besides Dutch Fork, which has become a power, the place that was always a power was Dorman and those schools in that area. And they had the best facilities. They had they originally had the best facility, like the first ones to have great facilities, and that's the Spartanburg, Greenville area, I think, or
That is
whatever.
correct.
And
The upstate is more powerful than the coast. The football in South Carolina is close to that North Carolina border.
got it.
You know, close to Charlotte and all in that upstate, the Clemson area, if you want to say.
Right, Rock Hill.
Rock Hill. Right.
Right. And there was right, exactly. You had people that moved from North Carolina over towards those areas because tax purposes, they were able to save money in South Carolina.
They still want to be able to go home and be within drivable distance, all that kind of
Now,
stuff.
the guy I coached with at North Myrtle Beach, he's at Boiling Springs. He is making $105,000 as the head football coach. He should be up to this. This is his third year. So I bet you he's over 110,000. I think Tommy Knox is 118.
Has that? Well, Tommy Knox, obviously, his program is really good. Has
Right.
that helped those programs divide from the rest, the ones that have the ability to?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, it has.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and they are sinking tons of money not only into their stadium but definitely in their weight rooms. Okay, that's the other thing. When you go to those fives, you know, hey, let me give you an idea. At North Myrtle Beach, we can actually lift 64 kids at one time with 3 kids at a station. We can put in 64. So that's a whole varsity lifting at one shot.
That's incredible. That's
Right.
Incredible.
Right.
Well, how have you found is the head coaching talent much better because of that, or is it like are guys coming in like yourself coming from other areas to come to South Carolina to coach?
Now again, and I was going to go back to Tommy.
Go ahead.
Why did Tommy leave? He had a gold mine back in North Carolina, right?
Yep.
Okay. What happens is the way they explained it to me, we get a lot of North Carolina guys, especially close to the border of North Carolina, all the way across and down into the state of South Carolina, okay, near the north, okay? Their longevity, how long it takes for them to get vested in the pension is less than it is in South Carolina or in New Jersey. I believe it's 20 years or close to 20. New Jersey, it's 25. Okay? Their pay is not that good in North Carolina, but their benefits are the best. It's better than South Carolina. So then they make the hop into South Carolina, pick up a little bit more in terms of salary. They have a nice benefit package. Now, if they actually continued where Jimmy is, they would find out that Georgia probably pays a little bit more for teaching, and they're on par with North Carolina's benefits.
Oh.
Now, and this has been a pet peeve that I have here, because I think, I don't know if you know, but Jimmy actually had 5 interviews for head jobs in Horry County. He attended almost every single interview live. He stayed here in my condo. Okay. And he didn't get a sniff for the finalist of any one of those jobs. And I could tell you, Jimmy would be a winner down here.
Right. And you're talking about a coach that's, look, I mean, you know, we had him on the podcast, right? Like we talked about long-time coach. I mean, he's really done everything. And now you're talking not even a sniff.
Yeah. And here's why. They don't like us, man. We're from the north. And I told that to my head coach. I don't want any of this garbage. Well, he says, I'm from the north. Maryland, Virginia, he's from now.
He said, yeah, that don't count, buddy.
Right. But the point is that they don't like us meddling in because they think their football is the best.
Right.
We don't know anything in the north.
Listen, and it's on par. I mean, look, just for us going from North Jersey to South Jersey, we've seen a lot of that, even that type of stuff, you know. So
yeah, I understand that, But when you actually go name a big-time football program, we don't have anything to hang our hats on.
Right.
Okay? Because they think Rutgers is the Pits.
Right. That's true.
Which
That's
is
what it is.
absolutely
Correct.
Listen, we've had this discussion, Dave. Like, how many times have we had this discussion? You know, it's
They're
a lot
right.
more, like when you don't have, like you said, we don't have anything to hold our hats on, especially because, you know, we're such a pro town, I guess, right? And South Carolina, there's no professional teams in South Carolina. All they have is college.
Well, they have Carolina.
Yeah. Well, they got college, but they don't have Division III outlets for these kids.
Right.
They're very poor in South Carolina. In the South here, with a lot of Division III opportunities.
Listen,
Now,
another thing that Coach, PJ Gibbs, who you know through
Yes.
a bunch of guys, we had him on. Same thing he said. I wish there was more Division III schools or opportunities for these guys to do things like that down here. You know,
my answer to them is, they said, do you know the offensive coordinator? He's not there anymore. Okay, at North Carolina. And they go like, who cares? Well, you should care because he's from New Jersey.
oh,
That's
Longo.
horrible. And I said, how about that guy? What's his name? Justin Jefferson from Minnesota. I said, his coach comes from New Jersey.
That's true.
That's Sorrentino.
Yeah.
See, but they don't want to hear that.
No.
Okay. And so now I become the wise ass on the block.
Well, that's nothing. I just want you to know that's nothing new, I guess, but okay.
Well, what do you mean nothing new?
I personally think you've always been a wise ass.
I treated you well, didn't I?
Because I feel like I'm a wise ass too, which is why I think we kind of get along. Like,
By the way, he was the shortest, largest free safety in what conference did we play in?
The Ed Jack?
And
Thank
Jack.
you. Yeah, well, thank you. I was also all conference holder for 2 years. So
How are you? How is he the shortest, biggest though?
oh, listen, are you going to
Widest?
tell him my nickname? Tell him my nickname. Go ahead.
Dumpy.
Told you. Told you.
He would always say that, like he
Told you.
he never was able to really get abs, even when like he
Told
was
you,
at his
bro. I could
slimmest.
do everything I wanted to, and that's what it was. And I don't know. I don't know how.
Yeah. And then tell him Todd Agresta. You guys will stay out here till midnight. Yeah, and this guy's laughing his ass off because Todd wasn't going to stay to midnight.
Oh, that's
It's a
great.
good threat, though. I was just fortunate to play for a lot of good. I had a lot of good guys around me. I don't know. It was just fun. It worked out. We worked our asses off. Like it really was. Guys cared. I just see it's just hard now to even like look back and like look at. I will say one thing about the groups that we coached and that you coached and stuff like that. And it definitely has a direct correlation to how we were coached. A lot of guys that we've played with are now coaches. And I'm not talking, they don't just coach, like they are football coaches. It's really a thing of beauty to look at it and see all those guys and how many of them are, who's a head coach, who's an assistant, who's coaching with each other. I mean, it's a high number from the guys that we played with.
Well, I can't name them all, but you're working for one.
Right. I mean, there's just so many.
And Jimmy Melody.
He's another one. I mean,
he's another one, and I'm sure there's
all
tons
over.
of them.
Or guys that are in education, like leadership roles, right? So like you just see, and look, it's who we had a staff that was together for a while. They knew what they were doing. They treated it. It was Division III ball, but it wasn't treated like Division III ball, right? Like it was just high intensity. Like we were just so fortunate to be coached by good guys, good mentors that I think it helped us, not only on the field, but like after. Look, and like I said, we're all doing stuff, whether, teaching, coaching, who's running companies now and CEOs, who's state troopers, right? Like, it's just, I don't know. We just had a really good tree. And I think that matters. It's important.
I think that's real important, and you said it, we were a bunch of guys who cared.
Right.
You cared about playing and we cared about coaching you to be the best that you could be.
Right.
I mean, we really cared.
Biggest thing.
You know?
Absolutely.
And, you know, in case of an emergency, we're always there.
Right.
I don't think we have that loyalty today.
That's something that a lot of coaches today, because, you know, just the way life is and things move so fast and everybody's worried about themselves, that they don't take the time to really create those relationships with, you know, their players. I think they will now, with the way recruiting is and all the open transfer stuff and the transfer portal. I think these guys are going to really start to dig in and make more personal relationships with guys on their roster, because you're going to have to recruit your own roster just as hard as you're recruiting the 5-star from this high school, you know, nowadays. So I think the personal relationships, I hope, stay genuine and they're not fake to just keep guys in places. But I mean, I still think that's how you win, is you win with people. Like Coach Garrett said when he was on, same thing. You win with people. And I firmly believe it.
Right. And I don't think that we should coddle people just to keep them there. Okay.
If you don't want to
you have a job to do, and this is coaching.
And
now,
that leads me to one last question that I think you'll have a great opinion on. Transfer portal and NIL and how it's affected, like, I don't know. I mean, you could take it where you want. I want you to, you know, because obviously high school and college are different. But how has it affected everything, in your opinion?
Well, you know, it's starting to filter down to high school kids in that, you know, it's okay to dream the dream, but they think everybody's getting money now.
Reality, like they're
right.
They think like, hey, if now it's not only am I looking for a scholarship, now I'm looking for a scholarship and money.
Right. But they don't know how many kids that put their name in the portal, let's start with the portal first, got nothing.
Correct.
Or they didn't make it, nobody took them. And now that leaves, you know, they have to take them back.
I didn't know that. They have to take them back if they...
Yes, they got to take them back. Okay. Now, of course, are you going back and telling your boss, hey, I just shoved it up your nose. Okay.
Right.
You got to take it back now. Okay.
Nice to see you again.
Now, think about the kid at Coastal, Grayson McCall. He put his name in the hat. I think that if Jamie Chadwell was still the head coach and not at Liberty, okay, Jamie probably said, good, you want to go? Go. Because he didn't care. But now this new guy, Beck, came.
Yep.
About 3 weeks after Beck got here, okay, gee, Jamie Chadwell's coming back.
Yeah.
Now, he also had an NIL because we see his picture up on advertisements. And he also goes and makes personal appearances.
Ah, there you go.
So I got a guarantee. Not a guarantee, but I bet you what happened is he couldn't find something where he got a little bit more, and so he had to come back.
Yeah, he's not jeopardizing.
I think we have to do something about this. Okay, I understand that they use players, but they're also giving them an education for free. Okay, and that's a lot of money. Because if you figure most of those schools, if you wanted to go through, are anywhere from $30,000 to $50,000. Okay, multiply that by 4, maybe 5 if they're there with a red shirt. Okay, you're $250,000 to $300,000.
Well, that's a one thing that I never understood why that it was never really brought up. Like, I understand that, hey, you know, if they want to make money. They want to work. Okay, fine. That was always okay with me. If they want to get NIL money, like someone wants to give them money to do an appearance, that's fine. But that's not what's happening. Is the collective, me, you, and Derek decide we want everybody to go to I don't know, South Carolina, and we're all multi-millionaires, and we recruit our multi-millionaire friends. And we say, okay, we have a $15 million pool, and he'll advertise my car dealership, and he'll advertise, and we'll give $1 million here and 500,000 here, and we buy these players. We're not actually doing NIL. You know what I mean? We're buying players, and that's the big, it's one of those. The intent had nothing to do with what actually happened.
Well, and here's where I think it's unfair. Okay, Derek knows that we usually put out a schedule at Montclair State, make it a nice big poster or whatever, or on a little card. Okay, and we usually take the top 3 or 4 players in some kind of football position, and we hand them out. Well, we put them in stores. Now, shouldn't that kid get paid because we're using his image and likeness?
Of course.
But on the Division III level, that's no. But if you're on the D1 level, that kid wants to get paid.
Correct.
So let's say I give that card out and you're getting a donation of $1. Okay, or I'm putting that poster in your store and he's giving me a sponsorship of $50. Okay, so that's not equal amongst the Division I's, the Division II's, and the Division III's. But I think they're going to have to do something. I think it's killing sports. It really is. It really is. I mean, besides a lot of other stuff that's going on.
Well, it's forming, the super conferences in at Division I. I just see eventually there's only going to be the Big Ten and there's going to be the SEC. That's it. That's all there's going to be. And then there's going to be multiple divisions of those. I'm talking about the highest level with the highest, the Power Five. It's going to be 2 divisions because no one's ever going to be happy with the money in the ACC. No one's ever going to be happy with whatever's left of, I don't know, the Big 12 eventually, right? Even though they're trying to grab some. Everyone's going to be a part of the Big 10 and the SEC, and then they're going to have a West, whatever they're going to do, Central, East, whatever they do. Well, that's what's going to happen.
There might not be any conferences. It's going to be the schools that are on TV. Okay, that'll be the conference because, there's going to be big money, and it's going to be like old Notre Dame who went out to NBC and bought their TV contract for 10 years. Okay, so we're going to have the TV schools, okay, and somebody's going to buy out the networks. It's going to be like the basketball where they get TNT and this and that. They got 4 games going on, but it's a conglomerate of CBS, I think, right? That does that, right? Okay, and those are the ones that are going to play, and that's where the money's going to lie. That's where it's coming. It's coming from TV.
Absolutely.
I mean, 5 years ago, we didn't have where's Clemson, ACC. They didn't have an ACC station. Now we got an ACC station.
Right. Every conference has their own TV station.
And Clemson and Florida State are no longer happy.
Schools have their own TV stations.
And Clemson and Florida State no longer want to be playing Boston College because they're not good enough. So they don't even want to be with the schools that they're with for that. The only reason the ACC, I think, stays intact somewhat, and I don't know how long it'll last, is because it was an old traditional basketball conference. So you had all those rivalries, Duke and North Carolina and so on and so forth. But that's not going to last much longer just because the football obviously clearly outweighs all of that.
Money.
So,
money. You got it. All about the almighty dollar.
Because you're going to lose, like UConn is going to go to the Big 12, okay? They are a Big East basketball school, but they have to go to the money, which is going to go to Big 12. They're going to have to leave.
The other collegiate sports, right? And the head coach from Missouri talked on it, right? Look, we're all thinking about, that's great football when you have 1 game a week and you're traveling to the West Coast, you can get back or whatever. But now you're talking these other sports. I got to go to the West Coast to play a game. Then I got to come back and I got to do this and I got to this. The scheduling of everything. It's just, it's great for football. But what about those other sports?
They don't care. Nobody cares.
It doesn't matter because of the money.
You know who they should call? Hawaii. Because Hawaii, every away game is 7 hours by plane. You know, that's the first call I would have made and said,
Yep.
how do you deal with this?
Torture is the word. Torture.
Yeah. That's why nobody's going to Hawaii.
We get a week in between. Basketball, they're playing 2 games a week, probably.
Right. What about baseball? You're playing series, right? Like, or you're back and forth.
Right.
And how about these other low budget schools that, like, how do you fly whatever team to the
They're
West
done.
Coast? Yeah, exactly. Like, you know,
If you don't get in a big budget, if you don't get in a big money conference, like, I don't know, what's a good, like, you're going to see Liberty try to get into one of these conferences pretty soon. They're going to have to.
absolutely.
You're going to see Coastal Carolina want to get into one of these conferences.
Old Dominion, James Madison, like,
I mean, those schools are not going to be able to, but Coastal Carolina and Liberty.
Coastal's close,
have
especially
big
with all the
backers.
publicity they've gotten recently, right?
They have big backers. Like Liberty's what? Isn't that Jerry Falwell's?
Jerry Falwell.
Yeah.
You're right.
So they have big money. So like the school, so you're going to see all that kind of line up. Like, so if you're a what do they call it? Group of 5 school, like a
Power
Georgia
5
Southern.
school.
Georgia Southern, you're left in the dust. I mean, you know, so those schools are going to be left in the dust, and then you'll see some of those schools like a Liberty who has the ability to continue to grow, try to get in one of these conferences. They probably have to, but yeah, I mean that's gonna go. Like BYU's gonna have to. They're not gonna be able to stay independent. They're gonna have to try and join one of them.
Yep.
You know, because they'll fail. Like the BYU channel, you know, even though all the Mormons do watch it, it's not going to be big enough from a financial standpoint to keep them independent.
Right.
Notre Dame's going to have to do something.
And you know, not to change the subject, but
Sure.
I think we got some worse things going on too.
Oh yeah, we'll take.
You know, and I am sick of this vote that the judge is going to pass in New Jersey about, well, I can change my identity and the teacher can get fired. Oh, you used the wrong pronoun because today I'm a girl or today I'm a man. Okay. And what they're doing to these women athletes are just
it's disgusting.
Wrong.
It's
Wrong.
disgusting. The women, you know, well, I mean that could be a 2-hour discussion for us, but I can tell you this: if I was a female athlete, and I don't know why more female athletes don't speak out against it, that is the most lopsided thing you could ever do. I mean, take Derek and put long hair on him and line him up in any sport, he's going to be a problem, right, Derek? You know, say, I mean, that's the bottom line. We get you in pickleball, right? With long hair,
listen, it's
you're
a
a
whole
champion.
different. It's a whole different beast. You know what I'm saying? It's something that's just. It's one of those things like it's sports. Like I never thought I'd have to see the day where that was like an issue or that was something that I personally would have to deal with. But you have to understand it. You have to be a part of it. And it's just kind of the world we're living in right now.
Well, in Connecticut, the former males went 1-2 in the 100-meter dash.
Go figure.
In the state championship. The fastest woman was 3rd. So,
you know, because this summer I was shocked. I walked through the cafeteria, and that's where they do their summer wrestling, in the cafeteria. And I'm watching this girl pin a guy in a 115 weight class. So I asked the coach, I said, she on the team? She has a choice. She can wrestle a girl, or she can wrestle a guy, I think, in a weight class 1 below him. But once she makes the commitment, she has to stay there for that meet. I don't know if we got anything like that in New Jersey.
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Right. But what I'm worried about is that we're going to lose kids that need, you know, and switching over because they're not fitting in somewhere where we could
well, that's a problem.
Kids that can maybe work and play
and
football.
fight, and get through it. Yeah.
You talk about linemen. Where are they all?
Well, the linemen, you know, me and Derek talked about this. And like I'm coaching an 8U team, and my linemen are skill guys. Okay, like they're bigger skill guys. Like in half of them in 10 years are going to be playing a skill position. That's the truth. But the big problem is this: NFL's pushing flag football, right? And Derek knows because we run flag football leagues.
Yes, they are.
They're pushing flag football because they want moms to say yes to football. Let's call it what it is. Moms are saying no to football because of all the stuff that came out with respect to concussions and all those kind of things. And what happened is the NFL said, and I read a whole thing with Troy Vincent, who's Roger Goodell's right-hand man, who I know pretty well. He basically said, and I think he's wrong, and we've talked about this. He said, well, those 2,500 special players that make the NFL, 3,000 of them, 2,500, 3,000 that in the NFL, those guys will always be there. We want football to be there for the rest of the people. But my thought process is if you don't have a foundation, you're not going to get to those 2,500 players.
Correct.
And that's the problem. And lineman-wise, skill-wise, maybe you do with flag because obviously it works on, skill stuff. But linemen don't have a home in flag football. They're not ostracized, like coaches are nice to all the kids in flag, but they're not going to break touchdowns in flag football. Okay, right. So what happens? You just say, well, football's not for me, and whereas if tackle's not encouraged at least to be one of the major options, and people don't think about it like that, those kids just go and they don't do anything. And for big kids, I've always found that football, shot put and discus, those kind of things, like those are things for those guys to become better athletes. And the push for flag football, in my opinion, leaves those guys out of football.
Yeah,
and that's a problem.
Right. And I was using the other as an example. Where do those kids go? What do they play? They play nothing. And
correct.
And what are they doing with their life? And then you go back and read all these sports. We got obesity. That's not what football does not want obese kids. Okay? It might help them learn how to keep their body in shape, so to speak. Okay? Why do we lift? It's actually to prevent injury and not to get bigger and stronger per se to kill somebody on the football field. Okay? And I think the mothers have done, and some fathers have done an injustice that they're going to get hurt. You can get hurt stepping off a curb. Okay?
Right. And that also goes to your other point about coaches teaching other coaches, which I think is a big deal. We need the trickle down of coaches. So if tackling has become a hot topic, right? How to tackle, keeping your head out of it now, which people want to do, right? We need coaches to teach all levels, not just go online. Like my problem with it all, because I haven't coached at all the different levels and not working. Like, go watch this about tackling. Well, my coaches who are her dads are great guys. They want to learn. Luckily, I'm able to help them because I've coached. I've been a head coach for so many years at the high school level, and I'm able to help them. But they all went and watched the online course. That online course did not help them get any practicum on tackling.
Right. And, of course, they think a good tackle is, or the best tackler on the team is the kid who murdered the other kid.
Of course.
It has nothing to do with technique.
No, it has nothing to do. No, it's all about technique, and it's not about who can kill one other kid. Who's leaving their feet? Who's not keeping their head up? Who's not wrapping the arms around? Who's not bringing the hips? All of that jazz. I see it day in and day out.
It's a mind, and that's why you have kids that don't tackle well at high school, and then at college they don't tackle well. Listen, I was telling Derek this it's mind blowing for me because I've never coached, even though our kids are doing great. I never coached. I coached youth flag and stuff. I never coached youth football, right? And it was mind blowing to me as what people perceived what a good tackler was. I'm like, the kid's head's down.
It's so
like,
skewed.
yeah, like he has to. I'm like, you guys have to have your head up. Like, it's exactly what you said. It's not about killing the other guy. It's first learning to do it properly. Progressing to space, progressing to the point where they can actually learn. And I can tell you this, they rush the youth football schedule. They rush them on the field. They rush them into games. Like we're rushed, we're pressed into games. And I said, whoa, like, how come why is this a rush to get us on the field? Like, isn't the point so we come back and all play football next year? Isn't that
right?
The point? That's the point.
Right. Yeah. And it's the point that I made before, that it takes a long time to teach this game, because you have to teach it right because of the safety. But if you teach it right and you get the kids in the weight room. Now, and when I say go in the weight room, you could do exercises like push-ups and things like that to get stronger for the younger
Right.
kids.
You don't have to be out there benching 315.
Correct. But I thought my head coach, he goes, we do tackling circuit every day. And I'm going, yeah, we'll do that for 3 days. And then that won't be in the period anymore. Wrong. We tackle every day. We tackled today. Okay. And all we had was helmets on.
Yeah.
Okay. That's how you keep it sharp, because you always know, Derek, as a player, if you're off 2 or 3 days of any phase of the game, what phase goes down the tubes real fast?
Yeah, absolutely.
Tackling.
Every time. It's the one thing that you need the most concentration on, and it's the first thing to go when you're tired.
Correct. It's the first thing when you come back on Monday. I like that he keeps that tackling in. That's where most of the injuries are.
Yeah, 100%.
Absolutely.
Right.
Especially in today's game where you're squeezed so much for live tackling time, right? Like here we are, we're about to dial it up. We have a game scrimmage tomorrow, and then we're game week. I mean, my first live kickoff and kickoff return is going to be game 1, right? Like, so hold my breath. You can't replicate it. It is what it is, but good luck. Hope you're good enough to get the guy down.
Correct. You're right. I mean, but this is a very difficult game to teach, and you got to be committed. And
Which is what makes it the best.
Yeah, it is the best. It is the best game. There's no doubt about it.
And after you coach football, you can coach anything.
Yeah, right.
Because
right. Think about it. I mean, think about all the sports you coached in it. Like, you know what I mean? And then ultimately umpire and stuff, right? Like, you just always around the game itself. A game.
Correct.
There's so much to it. Well, Coach, it's been phenomenal. I mean, an hour and 30. You're the champion, by the way.
I called it.
You kidding? I could be here another 2 hours. Any question you want to ask. And if you're ever going to do position, then you better call me. If not, buy my book. You can read it.
Go ahead.
We have to bring you back. I just want to talk. I want to bring you back to talk position stuff at another time.
Yeah, that's great.
Because
I appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Coach. We really appreciate you coming on, and I mean, it was. I mean, man, the amount of different things we covered it was amazing. I'm so glad to meet you. Derek talks, so highly of you. He says great things about you. Listen, we had a bunch of people commenting. Now I know your nickname is now Mad Dog because of the comments. So
there it is, buddy. I'm gonna have to check it out. I'm gonna have to see who it is.
Well, let's see. It was Mark Poor.
Poor. He coaches at Sayreville High School. He was a quarterback for us.
Sayreville High School. That's right.
So yeah, that's how I did the nickname. He said Mad Dog's on. Yeah.
That was the introduction. Every intro meeting, first night of camp, special teams, everybody's in the room, and then this guy comes on stage, and that's the first thing he goes, I am the Mad Dog Mike Cieri, and here's how we're gonna do it at Montclair State, and I don't want to hear shit. Okay, let's go. Welcome. you looking around and freshmen are like, what is going? Like, who is this? And it's like, you know, as you get older and you're the older guy and you're like, this is what it is, bro. Get ready, get prepared, because this is how we do it. So, Coach, I appreciate it, man. Good luck tomorrow night. Hope you come out healthy and with a W.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you, guys. And
all right, buddy. We'll
all
talk
right,
soon.
have a great season if I don't see you till the season ends. All
you
right?
too, man. I'll talk to you soon. Good luck.
All right,
Coach.
take care.
Thanks, Coach.
Bye.
Bye. Oh,
Told you.
That was phenomenal.
Good. He's a
That
good
was
man.
phenomenal. I think we could close it out safely right now.
Sounds good.
A great podcast, great guest, and for some reason I think I'm starting to go blind, so I can't see.
Oh,
anything.
great. We maybe got, what are those blue glass?
I have to
whatever
get
they
the-
are, like, I don't know.
I can't see up close. I'm looking at my sheet today.
It's,
I'm calling plays, and I'm like,
hey,
wait a
maybe
minute.
it's time-
I thought
might
this
be
was
time
13.
for Dave Schumann to hit up those cheaters, maybe.
Derek, I thought it was 12 font I printed. I'm like, what's going on?
Hey, buddy, that might be a little something. I won't say anything, I promise.
I might have to get 14 font. I don't think I can fit all the plays on there. Anyway.
All right. You'll figure out a way. I know you will. All right, buddy.
All right. We'll see you tomorrow.